For those of you who fancy yourselves as light infantry, whether you're a Minuteman, militiaman, whatever man, um, if you're going to be light infantry, then you need to train like actual light infantry, and that might actually, most of the time, that actually means setting aside the Ranger handbook and the different military manuals that say like this is how you're going to assault a target, this is how you're going to break contact, this is how you're going to do it, this person's going to do this, and this person's going to. If you are studying tactics and you're saying, okay, the only way to break contact is to bound, or the only way to break contact is to peel, then you're wrong. Tactics in and of themselves, just to start off with, we'll talk about the tactics game, because light infantry tactics, right? The problem with the tactics game is tactics are not supposed to be done in a dogmatic form. They are based in theory. So as long as you're following the maneuver warfare element of surprise, speed, violence of action, deception, and whatever, and tempo, then you're pretty much good to go, right? As long as you're following those basic concepts and being creative, then you're good to go. Maneuvering throughout your battle space and stuff, and having that maneuverability out throughout your battle space is what keeps you light infantry versus heavy infantry. So if you're thinking you're training as light infantry and you're wearing a shit ton of body armor and you're planning for long distance engagements, then you're not training as light infantry, you're training as heavy infantry. Light infantry is light, but they're also highly mobile. You're not going to be highly mobile when you start packing on those pounds. So if you do not have that mobility, i.e. you can't, hike for 30 miles a day and, still be able to conduct operations at the end of it and, say, perform like an Army PFT after hiking 30 miles with, a third of your body weight, then you're not really fit as light infantry. There are capabilities that come along with it, but let's talk about capabilities for a second. I believe that light infantry is often underappreciated in its capability, because I believe that light infantry is capable of doing anything as long as the materials are there for them. As long as the materials are there for them. Does that mean as long as the materials are humped in on their backs? No. The materials that are needed to actually conduct operations can actually be cached ahead of time. And that's a skill that has been, completely dismissed in current, warfare. The concept of caching materials has been, just forgotten. It was talked about in World War II OSS operations in SOE. It actually was published in a 1980s Special Forces manual. They had several pages on how to do different caches and the specific techniques for doing good caches and camouflaging them and everything. And I believe that is actually crucial to good operations and maintaining your status as a light infantry in a highly mobile force, is have the resources that you need for that specific fight in that specific area. So it can be a terrain feature away where you have your demolitions, demolitions equipment, your C4, your deck cord, time fuse, and all that other stuff, your electrical, non-electrical blasting caps, and your, electrical initiation units or whatever, your claymores, rockets, whatever, could be cached in the area where you're going to do an armor ambush or some other, like, raid or whatever. But you're able to assemble it there and then do your briefing, and all the extra ammo will be there for the operation. So you marched in with a combat load of like 6 magazines, maybe 8 or whatever, but you've got extra ammo, water, and medical supplies in that area, plus all the demolition gear, all the mission-specific gear that was going to be needed for that. And now you're going to go conduct that operation, and then you're going to conduct E&E with some gear that you might have had for sustainment, like maybe a couple of extra rations per person or whatever was cached in that area too. So caching materials can be absolutely vital to maintaining that maneuverability. So resupplying yourself and stuff, but also having those mission-specific items for those operations nearby is a way that you can stay light. You only get them when you need them, and then the rest of the time they're safely hidden and cached away. Buried underground, suspended in a tree where people aren't going to look, whatever. Maybe you hide a ruck somewhere that has extra ammunition, clothes, whatever. But this is the way to actually function as a light infantry, and this is not something that's really practiced in current manuals. So you need to put down the manuals, pick up history books, learn the different tactics and stuff. Like World War One, 3 to 5 seconds, it was enough for somebody to get killed. It takes about a second and a half for a range unk who's semi-ready and semi-aware that the enemy is there to go, boom. Just aim in and boom. They can get a combat effective hit in a second and a half. So that 3 to 5 second rush thing, that's how to get killed. And that was proved in World War One. So, of course, this is all about, not necessarily saying that everything in these manuals is bunk, but it's a way to do it, but not the way. And most of the way would be through practicing training against, pure elements, like half of your team is assaulting, half the team's defending, and you practice these different tactical maneuvers, or at least the basic principles of like an assault, or a basic principle of a break contact, or the basic principle of a linear danger area that's compromised. So you get to practice these actual individual techniques as a light infantry force, and how you go about doing that. Are you going to assault through when you're ambushed? Are you going to actually break contact? Or are you going to send half of your element around to conduct a flanking attack immediately instead of just assaulting through? There's a lot of lessons that can be learned throughout history about how to be versatile as a light infantry force, and that's really where a light infantry force shines. It's versatile. It can do a lot. It's highly mobile. Do not lose that by getting painted into a box with these military manuals. If you want to be good at tactics, study tactics, but you also need your logistics ironed out too. So learn how to plant caches. Think of that stuff ahead of time. Get used to going without food or water and still having to march a long distance. That's probably what's going to happen to anybody, light or heavy infantry, regardless if you're a Minuteman or militia or whatever. If you're going to plan to go against an invading military or a superior actual professional military, then you're probably going to be on the run a lot, and you're probably not going to have time for your, little mountain house meal or whatever. So you need to train for that ahead of time. You need to train for light amounts of famine, loss of sleep, lack of water, and stuff like that. You need to train with that in mind, and you need to practice it often as a team and develop your own way to do things. Be versatile, be light, be effective, be mobile, and practice as actual light infantry. So anyways, that's just my opinion on training as light infantry, but let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and you guys have a good one.